Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Okay, folks, we are back in action. Technical difficulties for whatever reason. Everything went out. I don't know why, but Mr. Mancera, I do apologize. As you were saying, from that part that you just showed us, what else you got?
Well, what I wanted to show you was the following: is that one of the things that when I shared with you about WBC and one thing that I wanted, this is what you're after when you are in boxing, the famous badges. That
Yes,
you
the
hang
famous
around.
badges.
And this is the ones that allow you to go anywhere, into the dressing rooms, anywhere you want to go. And to me, that was one of the greatest. Every time I do that, I put these on. It reminds me of Don Jose Sulaiman.
Right.
Because this is what we negotiated. So this is as an example. This is when Deontay Wilder actually won the first time world championship against.
Test 1 2. Okay, we're on. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Okay, we're back. Go ahead, Mr. Mancera.
Yeah, I was just showing you the badges. Here's the Canelo Triple G, the second fight. The badges I've got here. One of the nicest ones is the Austin Trout.
Our local champ,
yes,
Austin Trout.
Yes, when he fought Canelo Alvarez in San Antonio. I was there, of course.
That was a good fight too, huh?
This is my badge from China, the World Convention in China.
Wow. That was the WBC convention. How often do they have these conventions?
Every year.
Every year.
Yes, I just came back from Ukraine. We were out there in October of last year, and this year's going to be in Cancun.
Wow.
I do have the one somewhere here for the one for the first time I actually went to a convention. It was in Las Vegas. So I've been to most all conventions, and that's where not only do we have world champions come in, but that's where we pass all the rules and regulations, changes, things of that nature. And Wednesdays, traditionally, during the convention, is when all the promoters come in and when they're asking for their fighter to be ranked now number 5 versus number 15.
And that's where all the magic happens.
That's where the magic happens.
Where how you rank them and who's who, and I know you brought in our WBC ratings. You have the heavyweight at 200 plus pounds. The champion, of course, is from USA champion Deontay Wilder, which in turn fights this weekend, right?
That's right.
And then you have the Ukrainian at cruiserweight number 2. So when you put these, you have 17 here. Does that mean there's 17 weight divisions?
There's 17 weight divisions. Every now and then we do have, by negotiation, as an example, the fight for the middleweight championship. It's 160. With Mayweather, Canelo, there's always been catch weights, but it's negotiated by the boxers and ratified by the commission. So let's say they agree to fight for the middleweight, but they're going to 28. WBC says that's okay. It's still for a middleweight championship. So they've been willing to negotiate with the promoters and the champions. And the whole idea is WBC says, how do we get these two great boxers that are off a pound or 2 pounds, and they can come together for the benefit of the public? That's why we now and then allow what is called the catch weight for that fight only.
And then you just said it for the benefit of the public. That's right. I mean, the WBC, they're powerful and they're into the political world as well, but also at the end of the day, Mr. Mancera, they're for the public. They're for us fight fans, right?
That's right. And Sulaiman always talked about the boxers, and if I may, you were kind of surprised at 15 round fights. It was very typical,
right,
for years and years, And prior to that, it was 25 rounds. Okay.
Wow.
And prior to that, there was no number of rounds. It's whoever came down first. I'm talking about at the time of Jack Johnson. So it was Sulaiman who saw that the fights, it was the most, where the fighters received the most punishment was after the 12th round. They noticed on the 13th, 14th round, they were totally exhausted, and they were just, that's when the damages were occurring. So he passed. The WBC was the first one that passed that no world championship fight would go beyond 12 rounds.
Wow.
So then everybody else followed.
Yeah.
And now we're used to 12-round fights. He's also the one that said, okay, instead of 3 ropes, we need to have 4 ropes, because some fighters are going through the ropes and then up in the first row. And so he implemented the 4 rope for the safety of the fighters. But it's by on the 4th rope at the very bottom, it's loose.
It's loose.
So that if they ever, it's more to cushion the fall, if you may, of the fighter. So he implemented that. He also implemented the fighters for years and years. If you were going to fight on Saturday, the weigh-in was at 12. So
on Saturday.
On Saturday, right. So for years, that was a tradition. So if you were over 1 pound or 2 pounds, well, you had to bring him down. Go spit, go to the bathroom, whatever. Yeah, go sweat it out. And he saw that they were going up there dehydrated.
Because of the weigh-in, it was on that Saturday.
It was a Saturday, so he's the one that said no more. For the benefit of the fighter and for the public, let's have the weigh-in 24 hours before. That's why it was implemented to have the weigh-ins on Friday to allow the boxer that for whatever reason they came down to a certain weight and dehydrate.
But Ray, let me ask you, Ray. But that also can have some. There's a double-edged sword. No, that also can have, because you see fighters weigh in on Friday, then they balloon up to 15 pounds over the other fighter. No, can that also be detrimental?
Luis, that right now, ever since that rule was implemented, it was God sent. It was fantastic.
Okay, good.
So the fighters were up there at their full capacity, and the public was getting their money's worth.
Okay,
and we actually were seeing the best of the best at that point. Fully weighed, hydrated, everything was fine. However, we have noticed that in the last few, I would say about the last 3 years, we've seen this balloon happen between Friday and Saturday, that instead of going up 8 to 10 pounds, which would be okay, they're going up to 12, 15 pounds. And now the WBC came out about 2 months ago saying, we're doing a study, we're going to force them that they cannot be greater than a certain weight when they go up, because some people were abusing it. The other thing that he implemented also was that because of the weight, some boxers were saying, hey, we're going to have this match, and I'm talking about a world championship fight, and the fight went down, he got hurt, would you go ahead and step in for the fight? And let's say he was 15 pounds overweight and he's training, but 15 pounds. He says, yeah, sure, I'll take it. Well, the weigh-in was going to be Friday the night before. And he saw again that they were dropping down in weight too much. It was bad. So he implemented the 7 and 30-day rule.
Okay.
That if you're going to fight 30 days before, you're supposed to weigh X amount of pounds over and above what you're going to weigh that day. And then 7 days before, they're supposed to weigh you wherever you're at, in Alaska or Mexico. They weigh you, they take a picture, they send it in, and it's unofficial, because they want to watch how you're going down so that the manager does not abuse, ándale, no comas nada, that sort of stuff. So Don Jose Sulaiman implemented a lot of safety features for the benefit of the fighter.
And people don't see that. They don't realize that, the WBC is also for the health of the fighters, right? That's the number one. Safety is the number one priority. And as fans, Ray, we don't see that, and we don't hear that side. That's the question. Also, they weigh in and tell us something. When the fighter weighs in on the weigh-in, the official weigh-in, after he weighs in, is the fighter allowed to eat anything he wants?
Anything he wants.
And he can hydrate and he can come healthy to the fight, right?
That's right. That's right. The one thing the WBC does, though, is that we work with VITA, and that is a worldwide organization. And I saw it at the Berchel versus Roman fight.
Well, that was a good fight. Huh?
Yes, as a supervisor for the first time in my life.
Wow.
I was allowed to be a supervisor. And so what happens is that the WBC is not even aware of the name or how or who it is that's going to come in right after the fight. We might do it before the fight. We don't know when they're going to show up. And for World Championship fights, they come in, they identify themselves, and they draw blood. And they take that analysis because they want to make sure that that fighter did not take anything that was a substance that was going to give him strength. So I saw it at the Berchel fight. We were looking around saying, well, where is it? Where is it? And I was getting nervous. And I was going to call Mauricio late at night to Mexico. And all of a sudden, this guy shows up. And they kind of point to me. And he comes over with a backpack. He says, I'm with me. And it's got a badge. He says, I'm with VITA, and I'm the one that's going to do the testing. I said, okay, come over here. So I took him in there, got everybody out. And they did the test. And then went over to Roman, and they did the same thing. But those things, the public does not see that. But
we don't.
We do it because we want to make sure that if you're going to get up on that ring, and people have paid to watch this fight, they want a fair fight, and if you're going to walk away with that green and gold belt, we want to know that you are a true champion without any assistance from drugs or anything else.
And you know what? And that's, I mean, you're out there for the safety of the fighters, but you know what? Like, there's been fights that you clearly see that the other fighter's way bigger than him. Why does that happen? Why would they allow these fighters? A good case in point is the Earl Spence versus Mikey Garcia fight. You clearly saw Mikey Garcia not up to par with him. He was just too small.
Well, we just saw it a couple of weeks ago with Canelo versus Jacobs. I mean, Jacobs, you saw him; he was huge.
Huge.
And he couldn't knock him down. He threw every punch you can. But when you weigh that much, you can't knock that guy down, no matter how hard you hit. Now, you take 10 pounds off Jacobs, that guy goes down in the third or fourth round.
Yeah.
So what happens is that those are the things precisely, Louis, that we are looking at to see what the hell's going on. Why are they ballooning so much?
Yeah.
And so we're doing the study right now.
Wow, because they balloon so much, like crazy, and you can actually see that the other fighter's way too big. I mean, they're throwing the kitchen sink at him and nothing happens to him, right? I mean, and again, like you say, a lot of things happen behind the scenes, right? Mm-hmm. That we don't get to see. But nevertheless, folks, the WBC here is for the welfare of the fighters, and of course, the WBC is a brand of integrity and ethics. So, how many WBC titles are they, and what do they mean? For example, Ray, the WBC Silver, the International. You know, Ray, I had the privilege to be working the corner for the first time. I was a cut man for DeMarcus Chop Corley, and the fight was fought in Monterrey, and it was for the WBC International. Can you give us just a little shed on light on what do those belts mean? The Silver, the International.
Yes, the WBC was actually formed in 1975 in Mexico City. At that time, the WBA was in existence, WBO, World Boxing Organization, World Boxing, the association, the organization, they were in existence. Sulaiman felt that he had been in boxing by that time, and he asked the president of Mexico if he would help financially to create a new organization. Well, what they started off is just an amazing. Right now we are in 168 countries. We call them affiliates. And the way I had the same question as you did when I first joined the WBC. Okay, I know it's a World Boxing Council, but who are you?
Yes.
So I had to do my homework to be able to explain to legislators exactly who we were, and I came to realize that. So WBC goes into say England and says, okay, who is the premier boxing entity?
Okay, boxing.
And they say, okay, if you agree to follow the following rules, we will make you an affiliate of WBC. That means that when your champion wins, they will automatically be ranked in the top 20. So they said, really? In other words, automatically? Yes. So they went around the world creating these affiliates in the U.S. It wasn't the U.S. championship. They created something called the North American Boxing Federation, NABF. So they went throughout the world, and it was amazing what they did. So because of this web that they have worldwide, that's why you have somebody called Gennady Golovkin. Who in the world would have thought that there's a young kid in Ukraine that is knocking trees down with one punch? And so when he starts fighting in amateur and professional, the people there start watching him. At one point, one of the people associated with WBC and boxing says, hey, WBC, you've got to see this kid.
Okay.
So that's when they send video, they watch him and say, okay, make sure that, let's see if he put him up to a fight for the championship in Ukraine and see what he does to the best of the best in Ukraine. Right. So that's how they're able to start watching them. And unbeknownst to us, the WBC has identified 1,000 boxers out there. And they're keeping tabs on them because as they rise, they're starting to see how good they are, because to get a shot at the WBC championship, I mean, when you go up there, you will become a true world champion, because 168 countries, you're the one that is fighting for the title, or you are the title holder. Thanks to that web that was created by Sulaiman, we're able to find now Pacquiao that was found in the Philippines. And then in Africa, Nelson
Asuma Nelson.
Asuma Nelson. I mean,
good
who would
fighter,
have thought?
man. Good
so
fighter.
It is the web that they created, this network, that they would identify those up and coming in Guatemala, this Chocolatito.
Yeah.
But those countries, now I was watching this, and we have not only the cruiserweight, but also the light heavyweight. They're from Ukraine. I mean,
there's a lot of Ukrainians up there,
amazing. Let me tell you, that country is going to be a powerhouse. I saw it. I was there. I was walking around the streets, and I saw these big guys and slim, and I'm going,
they're all boxers.
This is their natural
weight.
Walking around weight. I can just imagine training them versus other countries that have an issue of weight. No, these guys don't have an issue of weight. They're big, and you can tell by the way they look at you. They don't have a problem.
Well, Ray, I guess the Europeans have always been powerhouses with the Klitschko's and
Ukraine,
Ukrainians. Man, they're
Russia.
They're a powerhouse, and I think they have a lot of humble upbringings, right? And they're hungry.
They're hungry, and what is very interesting about them is that they have very much a style, or the how should I say it, the desire to put it all out there and just slug it out. That's why Triple G is called the Mexican Siberian.
Yeah.
Because he loves to slug it out.
Yeah.
And trainers tell him, don't. You got to box. But they love to slug it out, like Mexicans.
Yeah.
And that's what has made us famous. But now, of course, we do have boxing. We're great boxers. But I think Ukraine, not only do they hit hard, but you just teach them how to bend, the bending and left, right, and you're not going to win by knockout. You actually could win by making sure you don't get hurt.
Don't get hit. Don't get hurt. Wow. So that's where the silver international belts come in. You're all over the world. Tell us on some of the belts that we see, the commemoratory belts for the Cinco de Mayo. I've seen some beautiful belts. Is that just depicted for that? Is that just like something like a prize for the fighter? I've seen these beautiful belts that you have made for these fighters, man.
Yes,
they don't look like your conventional regular belts. Tell us a little bit about those belts.
The championship belt, which is not available for sale, and it's only given to world champions. I saw it that they gave it to Donald Trump. It's rare when they give it to somebody that is not a world champion.
Wow.
Now, the one that I brought here with me is actually one that you can actually buy. That's $1,200, and it is approximately, thank you so much, it's approximately half the size of the actual championship belt. This is a smaller version.
Beautiful belt.
Yeah, it's called the not commemorative belt. It's called. There's a name that they give to it, but it's not the actual belt. The actual belt is about this big.
Wow.
It's huge. Now I do have one in El Paso. I want you to know that other than Mexico City. Oh, by the way, if you look at the other side, it's got the Don Jose Sulaiman's signature in the back.
Wow, it does.
So that one actually was given to me by Sulaiman to have here and showcase it. But I ended up, I told Mauricio, I said, Mauricio, I do have one of these. Can I keep it? It is yours. So he gave it to me.
Can you leave it in your hands real quick? 'Cause I'm going to ask you now. Tell us about the belt. What is it? What does it mean? Why is there in every belt that you see on the fighters, especially this one? You have some pictures there. Is all the belts the same? And how do fighters get into those little circles or
Yes.
people?
The first on the issue of the pictures, they all normally they have three, but they're going to start having only two.
Why?
They will always have Muhammad Ali.
Always, all the belts.
Always from
Okay,
now on.
okay.
Muhammad Ali and Don Jose Sulaiman.
Okay.
And then they will have the opposing, the actual fighters.
Okay.
So it can be Canelo and Triple G.
Okay. Okay.
Triple G, and you're not going to see the third one.
Gotcha.
So this is what people that are fighting. They will always have Sulaiman in the middle.
Okay.
And Muhammad Ali. Now, of course, there's
Oh,
all the
beautiful,
flags,
beautiful.
and the newest flag is the Ukrainian flag. So the new flag actually has the this was the pin that actually is used by the officials when we in our suit.
Okay.
So
Wow, it's beautiful.
The new one has the Ukrainian flag. So I want to give this to you. Appreciation.
Wow, what an honor,
for,
man.
For being involved in boxing.
Thank
That
you. Thank you, Ray.
You can wear it. Of course, somebody's going to freak out when they see it, especially the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. They'll freak out.
I won't wear it. I'll put it in a case.
Yeah, keep it there because that's the one that I wear.
Wow, man, what a not man. Thanks, Dad. We're gonna keep and the tokens of appreciation that's given to the gym, Mr. Ray. We're gonna put it out in case so all the other kids can appreciate it. All the people that come to the gym can appreciate what we do. We also have a lot of at-risk youth come in here, and they like to see all that. So what do you have now here?
Okay, what we have here is, since we don't give away those world championship fights, they came up with this mini belt.
That's nice.
And they actually, it goes like this, and you put it on your desk, and whenever they're going to give it away, they autograph it in the back. It can be Sulaiman, it can be whoever it might be. They have, like, it's real nice so that you can put, autograph it. But this is a mini belt.
Very nice.
And this is the actual...
Yeah, those are the medals that we see for the fighter, the runner-up.
The runner-up, yes. I'm the one who put it on Roman, and I felt so bad.
Good warrior fighter,
Good
but
warrior, and he was totally
Mickey
knocked
Roman
out.
is
Mickey,
an awesome fighter.
amazing. And so this is what actually is put. I'm the one who puts it over. So we first put the belt, the championship belt. We first put it on the champion right away.
Yeah, we see that.
Yes. And then we go to the runner-up, and this is the belt that they actually take with them. So I just wanted you to see it.
Beautiful,
It's
man.
not for you. I know I'm giving you a lot of things, but
Beautiful, man.
that one.
And I know we see this on a lot of the fighters that they put a place around their neck for the runner-ups. Yes, this is
So
beautiful.
they take something with them.
Yes.
And this is the actual T-shirts
Yeah, that we see.
that we first put on the championship. If you notice, right after a fight, that's
Yes.
the first thing. Boom, we put it on him, and it says world champion.
This is
it's
my
got-
blood is green,
uh-huh.
world champion. My heart is gold.
Yes, and so as you can see, now this one I would like to again, on behalf
Beautiful.
of the World Boxing Council of Mauricio Sulaiman, President. This is for you. This is a
Wow,
gift.
man.
This is a World Championship T-shirt that is given to the champions. So I hope it's your size.
I think so, man. Man, thank you so much, Ray.
It's not to sleep in, okay?
It's a medium, perfect, my size.
I know, it's extra large.
And thank you so much, Ray, man. This is awesome, and I'm gonna display it out here at the Warriors Edge Boxing Gym.
Now I do have at this one of the most at the time the fight that was seen throughout the world, one of the biggest paychecks ever given to a fighter. It was the Pacquiao Mayweather fight, and they made commemorative posters. And of course, Ray Mancera got hold of them, and I brought him to El Paso. And I want you to, I'm gonna autograph it later on for you. And this is gonna be for your gym.
Oh wow, man, what a treat! And this was one of the biggest paychecks ever for a fighter, right?
I was there.
Wow, it was a good fight.
It's $140 million.
$140 million
for
Mayweather.
For Mayweather only.
Wow,
$140 million.
He needs more money, right? Wow, what an honor to have that.
We do have a few other things, you know, that such as caps. Now you kind of wonder, like these, see? Now you kind of wonder, why is Ray Mancera walking around with all this stuff?
Well, why is he?
Well, I was some time ago, we came to realize that we were at a boxing match, and Sulaiman's brother had not arrived, and he was bringing the world championship fight. He got caught in some plane and couldn't leave on time, things of that nature. And of course, I told Mauricio, you can't have this happen. I want you to send me a world championship fight, and I want to keep it in El Paso. If ever anything goes wrong, they steal it, you know, whatever may happen, at least we can put it on a plane on its way to New York or Chicago, wherever. But you gotta have one in the U.S. and not in Mexico City. So he sent me. I have a world championship fight, and he never leaves a special place that I have in my house, because you never know. I actually, it's very well tucked away, because it is a national championship fight belt. But he went ahead and sent me all this stuff. He says, I want you to have it, because what if we need something? What if? So he sent me like 40 of these. You know, he sent me like 10 of these, and so I have them there because I'm the little storage in the U.S.
You're the vault.
I'm the vault.
Just in case.
That's right.
The apocalypse, you have the WBC stuff. Like that vault that we have, the United States government has that vault with the extra seeds, just in case, man. Wow, what this is an honor to have all this and to see it firsthand, because you see it on TV. So, Ray, we talked about the WBC, what it does international here. So let's talk closer to home. El Paso, Ray, has hosted some championship televised fights, correct?
That's right.
But they're scarce and far beyond. Why do you think El Paso does not host more fights, Ray?
I'll tell you reason, and I'm looking something up so I can show you what we did. Is that being a former promoter, I always called it our nonprofit organization.
Okay.
We just love boxing, but it's very expensive to put on a fight. That's why you don't see it. So you have boxers wanting to fight, trainers training them, everything's in place, the venue's in place, but you need the promoter, the one that's going to take a risk out there,
of course,
and put the money up.
Of
and
course.
If nobody ever walks in, you're going to have to eat that money. You're going to have to pay those boxers. And one of the biggest expenses is the fees for the commission.
The fees for the commission.
That's right. Very few people see those fees, because it's not only the fees for the commission. If you're going to have a fight, you have to bring in the referees, the judges. So you actually don't only just bring 3 judges. There's actually 6 judges. There's actually several referees.
And they all got to get paid.
And they got to get paid. They bring him in from out of town, and they have to pay for the lodging and their food. When you look at and they get a check.
Okay.
So when you put all that stuff together, you go like, I'm working for the state of Texas. So it happens in New Mexico, California, elsewhere. That's why, you don't see that much boxing.
Here in El Paso.
In El Paso, and throughout Texas, for
Throughout
that
Texas.
matter.
Yeah, you're right. That we don't see that
we
many.
don't see. So every now and then we saw Leija Bata surface. They were doing a lot of fights in Dallas and San Antonio. They did it. But Bata had deep pockets. But at one point he said, "Excuse me, I can't."
Wow.
Because it's very expensive. So what we did, I want you to know that WBC was recognized about 3 weeks ago by the legislature. We went down to the Senate floor and the House floor, and they recognized us. But that was on Monday. On Sunday, we were sitting around late after dinner, and finding out what we were going to do and who was going to speak, things of that nature. And I turned to Mauricio and I said, Mauricio, you understand? Let me tell you something about politicians. When they give you a recognition and they're excited because Eric Morales was with us.
Wow, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so they're there. They're going to ask you, hey, what can we do for you? And I said, they're going to ask you that question, and we've got to be prepared. And he looked at me and says, what do you suggest? I said, my suggestion, ask him to lower the fees. Pass a bill to lower the fees, to force the TDLR to lower the fees. He says, will you work on it? I said, we'll have it ready. I turned to Robert Lenhart, the attorney, and said, okay, Robert, you and I will get together. He says, good, Ray, we'll get together. So we took off and we drafted, just verbiage.
To lower the fees.
Yeah, to lower the fees. We go to the governor's mansion in the morning. Here we are. He comes in, he's in a wheelchair, the belt, the whole thing, we're there. What's the first thing the governor says? Thank you so much, it's wonderful and all that. And says, what can I do for you? And Sulaiman looks at me, a very quick look, saying, are you a witch or what? I mean, he knew exactly. And I said, he says, Governor Ray Mancera from El Paso, our government affairs, and Robert Lenhart, our attorney, would you let him know? And we had a spill right on the spot. We said, Governor, California is number one in the number of fights being held. Amateur, 4, 6, and 8 rounders, 10 rounders, world championship fights, and Texas is number 2. Do you want to continue to be number 2, or do you want to be number 1? I mean, we were blunt with him, because that's the way you talk to elected officials. You got to be,
straight up forward.
And you only have so much time.
Of course.
And he says, well, of course I want to be number 1.
Number 1. Yeah.
I said,
Texas.
We've got an idea for you. If you lower the fees, there's going to be more matches, and from those, the people are going to be happy. The kids are going to be fighting, and God knows we're going to have world champions out of Texas. But you've got to invest by lowering the fees. It's almost prohibitive to have a boxing match. Even amateurs almost prohibitive to have those matches. So we would like to ask for your support. He says, wonderful idea. I want to be number 1. And let me know how I can help. I said, thank you, Governor. I mean, real quick. You got to be very, very quick. We walked out. We're going back to the legislature. And Mauricio says, how the hell did you know he was going to ask that? I said, I just know them. So we go and sit down.
That's why you're the political affairs guru.
We're sitting down with Senator Lucio, and he same question, and we told him our conversation with the governor, and also on the House side we were having a meeting with San Antonio State Representative and Attorney Roland Gutierrez. So we told them the idea. 2 days later, we had the bill filed.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
so
the fees are lowered.
Well, right now they're going through the process.
You
know, in Texas we meet once every 2 years for 5 months only.
Okay.
And so we want to have a shout out there to Roland Gutierrez, who filed House Bill 3796, and Senator Eddie Lucio, who filed Senate Bill 2356. Right now they're almost done on the 29th of May. They have not come out of committee. Texas Department of License and Regulation, the executive director, we had a meeting with him before we left. He says, you know what, if that's what the governor wants, I have no objection.
Well, let's do it.
So we might not have a hearing, but we're going to reintroduce it again in 2 years. In 2 years, it will pass. But this was a spur of the moment. But just goes to show you that that's how we we can change boxing in El Paso and elsewhere by bringing down the fees.
And you know what, you mentioned the amateur. Don't get me started, Ray. It is very expensive for the amateur program as well, and it comes down from Colorado to put a match together. There's even outrageous numbers for a charity fight. I mean, they want to charge you a lot, and I know it's money and people want to get paid, but it's been very hard. And you know what, Ray? It's been hard to put matches here in El Paso, especially at the amateur program. So hopefully we see more pro fights. And you know what? I know you've been very instrumental, and I know you've been part of all the fights that have came through in the last 5 years. The Devon Alexanders, the Victor Ortizes, right? When they came down here to El Paso. So hopefully we'll see more fights. I know we have nothing lined up this year, but hopefully when lowering the fees, El Paso can host major fights, because I know we have the people. And I know we can have the venues, and El Paso is a great city to host a fight, right?
Yeah. So you have the venue, you have the talent, the trainers, everything's in place. What happens is you just need that promoter. But I'm going to share those people that actually want to have a boxing match of being an ex-promoter. It's not too much the burritos you're going to sell or the ticket price. Where you're going to make the money, where you're going to make sure that at least you're not going to go broke and your wife's not going to kick you out of the house, is that get a sponsor. And so I want you to know that every time I see friends of mine that are business people, you don't imagine. I tell them, you like boxing? Oh, yeah, it's real fine. How about writing a check to a promoter, $1,000, and put up a banner that says X construction company or X law firm? I said, why don't you do that for boxing? They need you. Without you, it's not going to happen.
Wow, that's so true, man.
So I say that over and over, and hopefully maybe coming from me, I'm trying to get them excited about writing a check. Okay?
Because nobody's excited in writing a check.
Yeah, but once they do it, they know that it's not all of these people that are going to call and say, hey, I've got a legal issue, or I'm going to build a new house. No. It's given back to the community.
Exactly.
That's the way I tell them, look, your name's going to be up there. Don't worry about it. We'll give you recognition. But always remember that when your dad was watching those fights, somebody put up the money. You are that person.
You're right. And I wish we had more companies like that in El Paso to foot the bill to put these fights on, because it is expensive, and like we're learning from you what happens behind the scenes with all this. Wow, it's very interesting. There's also a lot of things that happen behind the scenes in putting together an amateur fight. Getting the ring, getting the license, getting the doctor rate is something that when I started this, I couldn't believe. I mean, there's hundreds of doctors here. We cannot get a doctor, and there's been fights, amateur, that have been canceled on the spot because there's no doctor.
Well, you call me. Just call me, and I'll be more than happy to grab
thank you so much, man. I mean...
And let's have a little conference in El Paso where we bring doctors in and we invite them.
Let's do it.
Say, hey, let's be part of this, because at one point, the carrot I'm going to hold out to them is that saying, hey, you want to be at a world championship fight? No, I want to watch that. It says, yeah, it starts right here. Give your time, and go out there and examine those kids, make sure everything's fine. That's your contribution. And if you do it enough, you gain experience. At that point, I will recommend you then to TDLR. Then your journey begins.
And I wish there was more, because I know we do have our boxers that we keep using. Well, Ray, I mean, it's funny that we all mentioned this, but we're in the process. I know I got with Tony Aguilar from Golden Eagle Promotions. We're trying to get a pro amateur fight here in El Paso, and I know it's expensive, but in November we're going to try to get a pro am fight here and showcase our local pro kids and also our amateur kids, because we have a lot of them. So hopefully we'll see you down that road, Ray. If you just can let us know where to go and we can talk. So hopefully El Paso does host. So can you think El Paso will compete with bigger cities to bring championship fights?
Undoubtedly.
Huh?
Because when you combine Juarez and El Paso. And my vision is that, sure, we're going to have fights here, but if you have a relationship and identify trainers and boxers in Juarez and work with customs, you would think that they have this wall already built. No, you actually can work with them where you can actually bring amateur fighters from Juarez and have those fights here. because if they just fight against each other in El Paso, you got to bring blood in from Juarez, because they have a different techniques.
Yeah, there's a lot of fighters.
So I think that people get excited when it's El Paso contra Juarez, El Paso contra Chihuahua, or Texas contra Chihuahua. You got to make it a gimmick.
Yeah, a gimmick.
A gimmick. And as long as you have a relationship with those trainers, bring them over, and those that can cross, host them, have little meetings together, and then say, what can we do? That's where the leadership comes in. The people that actually want to see something happen. And you'd be surprised how many people, somebody's waiting for somebody to do it. If I was not doing the WBC, I would be more than happy to do that. But what happens is that I'm involved not only in the WBC but also with LULAC. I'm a national officer, and I travel so much with LULAC that when you combine LULAC and WBC, and then I'm trying to bring a law school to El Paso.
Wow, you're just so busy.
Yeah, and there's something called providing for my family.
Yeah.
And my wife says, hey, by the way, where's the check? So I want you all to know that I've been more than happy to help you have a session, 1 or 2 day session, where we talk about wrappings, about medical, and about sponsorships, about venues, and how we can work with the people from Juarez, bring customs and ask them what do we have to do to bring those kids over, or for us to go over. Well, it's easier for us to go over.
And you know what, Ray? It's funny that you mentioned, but it's just getting the ball rolling, man. I have promoted the Clash of the Titans law enforcement tournament for 10 years, and it's been a success, but it's a lot of work, man. A lot of work. When we started already brainstorming for the next one, early February, we're already ready for, because the tournaments are in November, and it's been coined as one of the best tournaments, amateur, because it looks like a pro event. But what you're saying about sitting down and putting the people in place, it takes a lot of money, a lot of sponsors, and still yet we see that people don't want to help out, And in the past podcast, Ray, we've talked about what happens, the Golden Gloves. The Golden Gloves, Ray, okay? Mr. Junior Vicencio has done an extraordinary job. And he's done it for so many years with passion. Solo. And like, for example, the past Golden Gloves, we were in the what was it called? What was that arena called? The arena behind the Coliseum. The roof was leaking, Ray. It was raining. We were fighting in there because we couldn't get the bigger venues. And it's pretty sad because, no, El Paso's not going to support boxing. And kids see that. I mean, it was cold. There was no heater. And I'm saying there's got to be a better venue. But we all complain for Junior. We got to help Junior. We all got to put our 2 cents in order for that wheel to turn. Everybody's got to give. Todos tenemos que poner nuestra parte. Mm-hmm. As local business owners, as gym owners, as coaches, as cutmen. Am I right?
That's right.
Everybody. We just can't want. We gotta. In order to receive, you gotta give too. And I see Junior working hard. And yeah, we don't get these venues like we used to. It's been so hard, Ray, and that's the struggle we have right now in trying to get venues. I know we're the local boxing commission is working with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. We have a beautiful gymnasium, and we've hosted some fights there, and hopefully we continue that. But there's got to be more out there too, and getting sponsors as well too. So, Ray, it's been an honor to have you here, man, and talk about all this. Obviously, you have traveled all over the world, and you've rubbed elbows with some pretty big players in the sport of boxing. How do you see boxing? Is it dying down? Is it getting better?
It's never been better. It's fantastic.
It's fantastic right now?
Fantastic, yeah. I mean, because of the all those up-and-coming countries, they devoted a lot of money to it, and we're starting to see great fights. I'm sad that HBO left.
Are we? I mean, we're sad. That was one of my favorite channels to watch boxing.
Yeah, but now we have something called A-Zone. I mean, it's a new forum. Maybe it'll work, but it's not going to go away. People, when you see those fights, people still get excited. And I get excited watching, of course, those World Championship fights. But if I know there's a fight going on, I don't care if it's amateur, and I've been to your fights, by the way.
Yes, sir.
I go in there and I sit down. I enjoy more those fights of those the sheriffs or the police or the firemen. I think they're it is. I have a ball watching it because it's the two people that are. They're up there. They've got the guts to go up there, number one, and know they're going to get hit in the face and, probably be embarrassed. But you know what? They went in and said, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And they're fighting camaradas,
Yeah, and it's all for charity.
It's all for charity. And I watch that, and I see those fights, and I go, híjole, qué toda madre, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, and we're, like I said, we're in our 10th year, and we've had fighters from San Diego, Houston sector. And again, I mean, it's giving back to our community, and these first responders also need a break. They do a lot for us out in the streets and in our jails as well. A shout out to all the sheriff's office officers, deputies, and all our first responders as well. One thing that before I even end the show, I wanted to bring up that the great Harold Letterman passed away at the age of 79, and you mentioned HBO, Ray. And I remember his word when he said, "Okay, Jim, this is what I got in round 9." I remember that. We're going to miss him so much. He's best known as the unofficial scorekeeper for HBO. Again, Letterman began his career as a boxing judge in 1967, and he joined the cast of HBO. He was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame class of 2006, the Good Guy Award from the Boxers Writers Association. And during his run on HBO, Letterman would often detail his scorecard, and I really enjoyed it. And, I was so sad to see HBO leave, as I remembered when I heard that Arturo Gatti passed. And I remember the trilogy between Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward. They'll never be, for me, Ray, nothing else better. The documentary on Arturo Gatti, when Jim Lampley got emotional, was something that always going to be with me because I grew up watching Jim Lampley on HBO. I grew up watching Arturo Gatti, Blood and Guts Warrior, and that trilogy. Of course, there's going to be other, but for me, it stood out because it was Jim Lampley, Harold Letterman, and the great Arturo Gatti. What an all-star cast. HBO leaves, and nothing lasts forever in this life, man.
Yeah, and of course we have Showtime, and that's a story in itself, by the way. Having Steve Espinosa. Do you know who Steve Espinosa is?
No, I don't.
You talk about somebody from El Paso. He's the one that was the attorney for Oscar de la Hoya for years. And I met him in Las Vegas by pure chance. And he says, "So you're Ray Mancera?" I said, "Why?" He says, "My mom raves about you." He says, "She's an attorney and I'm an attorney." And she always, "Why?" He says, "Because you used to give shoes to the kids." And she always thought it was the greatest thing. And so that's how I grew up knowing you, because my mom would talk to you at the dinner table. I said, it wasn't me, it was my brother Manny who really was in doing a lot of that stuff. So we became friends. So when he became, what's interesting is that Showtime really was going down and HBO was just knocking the heck out of them. And they made an offer to Steve Espinosa to take over as executive director, vice president for boxing. And what he did, he said yes. First thing he did was offer Mayweather $100 million contract for 6 fights. Unheard of.
Okay, yeah, I remember.
And he stole. There was no contract, so he didn't steal him. The HBO had never signed him up. But he signed the contract, exclusive contract with Showtime. So Showtime went over, and Steve Espinosa pulled that off, and now Showtime started to have a lot of fights, kicking HBO's butt, like you don't imagine. And he's from El Paso. He actually was born here.
And and you mentioned that's when the downfall of HBO became. So Ray, why do you think HBO never? Why didn't they follow and try to keep up the tradition? Why?
I think it was a major mistake. I think they're going to regret it for years. When you hear about Hulu and Netflix, and there's so many other places that they could have put boxing.
Under the banner of HBO?
Yes, and HBO is huge. I mean, you can put them under different places.
I remember seeing the fights on HBO when I was small.
Yeah, and HBO is owned, I think, by ABC or somebody like that. And so they could have had those fights there. I don't know what went through their head.
Wow, man.
But I think they're going to regret for years.
Wow, they're gonna and they are. I mean, and again, look, man, it was a staple in our house, and to watch that. And I remember when, as they go down, and my sons and I'm like, well, where did Jim Lampley go? Where did Michael Buffer go? Where did everybody go? Everybody just separated. Max Kellerman, I like Max Kellerman.
Once they left boxing, I cut off my HBO.
Yeah,
I mean, real simple.
That's all we have for it.
That's why I had it.
Why I had it. Exactly. And then, of course, now everything's live streaming. We have the Zone now, and the Zone is taking everybody by storm and signing these fighters, and it's making it easier to watch people worldwide, the fights. But you know what, Ray? It'll never be an HBO. It'll never be an HBO.
Or it will, there's nothing like going live. Okay, so all it is, because of the phone, we can actually watch the fight here, and we can watch it anywhere. So I think there's something to it, but the venues will continue to exist.
Of course.
The glamour of boxing will always be there.
Of course.
And there's going to be other fights. I would love to see again. I think I'll make sure of 1 or 2 fights MMA, because you have that uniqueness of the MMA. And they're different, but they're the same.
It's yeah.
Because if you notice, there's always that right hand. There's always that jab.
Yeah. So I mean, and you know where we get a lot of fighters here that's their sport, but they want to learn the stand-up game first, and that's why Holly Holm was so good, right? Yeah, because she was a boxer first.
And I watch all this MMA, and I'm telling guys, girls, go to a trainer that all they do is boxing.
Yeah.
And learn how to throw the right hand.
Exactly.
Learn how to throw that jab, or the hook, because if you learn, most of your fights will be knockouts. Because when they hit you, you go down.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what? It was it's boxing will always be the main. It'll be the mother of everything, and then everything branches out. Other forms of contact, MMA, jiu-jitsu, everything. But boxing will be the vocal point, and then everything branches out, because it all starts with boxing. Boxing is the oldest sport ever, right? It's the oldest. It's the oldest science that we know. But and like I said, Ray, that's why it's always been interesting to me to bring boxing to my kids. A good trainer, my son doing the fights, and all the other kids that came through here. It's been a very blessed, and will continue to be blessed with the sport of boxing that we love.
And you know why it will never go away?
Why?
Because if you have a 10-year-old boy, a 10-year-old girl, and then you know that there's going to be fights in school, a bully always out there,
right?
And every mother wants to make sure that son, hey, don't ever. You better learn how to throw a punch.
Yes.
And if you start with that idea, because that's what happened to me. My dad sent us to train, not to fight professionally, just to be able to defend ourselves. And what happens is that once we, the jab, oh my God, we were tired, and then the right, then the cook. Well, one day they put us in a gym. We were in football in high school, and they said, hey, it's cold, it's raining out there. We're gonna put the gloves on. And then they put some gloves on me. Like, they put us about the same height. And this guy came at me. I'm just standing there, and I go with that jab, that famous jab that I hated to throw every day in the gym. I just hit him, and he just bounced back, and he got mad. And he just comes at me, and I'm just waiting for him. And every fighter throws that hand to the back. Todos los que no saben boxear, they throw the hand to the back.
It's called a haymaker, right?
Here it comes, special delivery. And you see it coming in. All you do is just throw that right with your body and land it. And I did. The guy went down. And the coach stopped and says, hey, you know how to box? I said, yeah. He says, no, you're not fighting. But the point, though, is that it gave me confidence in school as a man, as a boy, and as a girl, because girls fight too. And if they learn how to fight, there's a self-esteem that goes along with it, the self-confidence. So when you ask me about what about boxing, it will never go away, because we will always be fighting somehow, some way.
Well, we'll always be fighters. Right? Yeah, and they walk in the gym every day here. The kids walk in here. female or male, they walk in here, and one of the things that moms and ask, well, I want my son to learn how to defend himself. And Ray, in the law enforcement side, our cadets are learning boxing. That's something that we have first in our academies, because it's the beginning of other tactics. You got to learn how to fight standing up.
If he comes in, whoever
Exactly.
it is, they come at you.
You got to go hands on.
You got to throw that jab, or you got to throw that right.
Exactly. I mean, of course, it's our last resort, but if our officers have to defend themselves, it's going to be boxing that's going to start, and it's all fun and games until you get hit in the nose, right? So, Ray, and again, I just wanted to point that out as well, that boxing is so important. But you know what? It's been an honor, Ray, to have you here. Again, man, I just can't mention enough, and to thank you to come here and enlighten us with your stories. I think we can sit here and talk for 3 hours, man. But thank you so much, Ray, for coming out. Any last words? You want to show us more? I know you brought some boxing gloves. What are those boxing gloves so we can see them real quick? And this is my son, Louis.
Hi, Louis. These are some of the gloves. I've got more at home. But typically, when you hang around with Sulaiman, you are privileged to be next to.
You say it just like he's just whatever, man. To us, is like what?
It's, champions. You know, you're there with champions. So I noticed that the workers that come from Mexico, they're not walking around asking for an autograph. It's like a no-no. Okay. Wow. So what I do is I put them in a bag, real quiet, hide it. And the first chance that I have, once Sulaiman turns around, I go to a champion and says, I've got Mayweather, Don King, I've got, you name it, Carlos Palomino, you know. In other words, would you sign it? Yeah, sign Pacquiao, yeah, sure. And then I put them in the bag again. So the other thing that I do is these badges, I decided to start having them autographed in the back by whoever it is. So I show it to them and say, would you autograph it? Is it Canelo? Yeah, sure. They autograph it for me. So those are the things that I'm keeping.
But Ray, you know what? And for the most part, everybody's pretty receptive. The fighters, right? Mm-hmm. They're all cool fighters, right? They're
very nice.
Very nice fighters. I haven't met Pacquiao's, but for the most part, they're pretty cool.
Very humble.
Real humble.
Very humble.
We had the privilege, Ray, to have Daniel Ponce Leon here. Speak of a humble guy.
Yeah.
Oh my, that guy was class act. Am I right? I mean, he was a nice guy, man. He stood here for 2 days at this gym, and he trained every kid that walked in this building.
Yeah. So what happens, Luis or Louis?
Luis, that's fine.
Luis.
Everybody calls me Tree.
Tree. Okay, Tree.
Tree.
Okay, Tree. So what happens, Tree, is that these boxers, you know, all they do is fight. They're professional boxers. And they're very humble because they know what they can do with their hands. So they want the best. Anybody who comes, you know, they'll autograph whatever it is. But the ones that keep them away are the trainers and other people that say, you know, please stop bothering them. You know.
Okay.
So it's not them. They're always
their agents, right?
They're agents. Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that think they have rights to them.
Well,
which they do.
But at one point, keep in mind that there's 300 people out there. He's not going to stay behind and sign those autographs.
You know who stood out? Speaking about 300 people, we went to the PBC fights here. It was the Chavez Jr. fight, and we saw the Nightmare Chris Ariola. That guy signed. He was walking up from the floor ringside to get some nachos, he said. Yeah. And everybody just swarmed up. And you know what he said? Yeah. I got you guys. Just relax, because they were pushing him. Yeah. He stood there. Am I right? I think he didn't even go get his nachos. He signed. He took a picture of everybody. I mean, he was so like cool. But you're right. You know, there's 300 people. They get tired of that too. You know, they want to be normal because so many people. And the other guy that was there was Leo Santa Cruz, a hell of a guy too. So it was good. So I don't know if you can answer this, Ray. So on the final note, you think there's going to be a trilogy, Triple G Canelo?
Of course.
Oh, there is?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, we want to see that.
They both want it.
I mean, it was so lopsided the last fight. Canelo really fought good. Do you think that it'll always be a fight? What about Canelo versus Billy Joe Saunders? Which I think that's a good fight.
Yes, I think Billy, he has to get out there more on television, pick up some of those fights that he knows he's going to get hit, possibly knocked out. You never know. Every fight is dangerous, but he needs to get out there more and take on some of those people that are pretty, that got a name.
Yeah, because he fights this weekend and we don't know who he's fighting.
Yeah, so he's got to be out there and just be looking for an opportunity to fight because that's how you're gonna get a world championship
What
fight.
about two things now? What about Earl Spence versus Canelo?
It's a good fight.
I mean, I know
Yeah.
that's been talked about
Yes,
too.
yes.
And now the one that's been done already, which I think is going to be, I think Pacquiao will win, is Pacquiao versus Keith Thurman. What do you think about that one?
It would be any fight with Pacquiao is exciting.
It's exciting, no matter how old.
It's exciting.
He's 40 years old,
Yeah,
41, something like that.
But I've seen him so many times, and I think that what happened with Marcus, of course, Nacho Beristain tells me that they actually trained for that fight.
So you talked to Nacho?
Oh yeah,
He says it like, what? That's my son's favorite trainer.
yeah.
His nickname is Nachito
Nachito.
because of Nacho Beristain.
I asked him, did you train? He says all he does is watch videos, and he says we knew he had this move, and he studied that move, and he studied that move, and he says, okay, we're gonna train. Close the doors, and they train only that punch, and sure enough. At one point, he made that move, and he just threw a Hail Mary. Just threw it out there. And sure enough, that face was there.
And
Went down.
knocked him down.
Amazing.
So, I mean, it'll be an interesting fight. I mean, Thurman, Pacquiao. And did you ever, one of the other fighters that stood out because of the bout was Sergio Martinez. Do you know Sergio Martinez?
Yeah, very well.
And it was weird that he never sparred to get ready for a fight. How can that be?
He's one of those. He's a very natural athlete, a rare person, and he was played soccer. And if you see him, he was just he has long hands, naturally very quick.
It was quick.
And he just learned how not to get hit.
Yeah.
What gave out were his knees because
Yeah.
of soccer. But if not, it's just amazing. Remember that his punch when he knocked out Paul
Williams.
Paul Williams. What a punch!
What a punch!
He
ended it.
just threw it out there.
And he hit him.
What was it? I think it was a left hook.
It was a left. It was a
left hook. Yeah, he threw it out. There's a picture that I have.
left hook, exactly.
He autographed it for me. But there's a picture where he's throwing that punch like this, and
He
and he's
connected
turning to the right, just like one of those. Just threw it out. He knew. He just jumped up and threw it up there, and the picture's taken like this, and it's just wonderful. When he landed, down.
Exactly, man. Ray, you have a favorite fighter? I don't know if you can. Do you have one of your favorite fighters, current fighters, that you like?
I love all of them.
Yeah, you like all of them, right?
I like my respects to
For all of
anybody who gets up on a ring.
My respects. You're
I
right.
don't care if they're sparring.
You're right.
I don't care if they're 10 years old out here in your gym. My respects.
Yeah, I mean,
Because to know that you're gonna get hit in your face, my respects.
yeah, I mean, everybody is a true champ when they get up there, right?
Yeah.
Well, folks, it's been a pleasure to have Ray Mancera on the show. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Yeah, we had a little bit of technical difficulties, but that's technology for you. As long as the water is calm, no matter how fast that duck's paddling underneath, it's all fine. But, folks, like I've always said before in my shows, tune in every Thursday, and anything you do in life, put God first. Ray, it's been a pleasure to have you here, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, man, for being here. Folks, have yourself a good week. This has been our podcast, Web Boxing 101. Enjoy the fight week. We got Deontay Wilder this weekend. And we also have, this weekend, we have Gary Russell Jr. We'll be fighting the undercard on the Showtime card. And then also on ESPN Plus, we got Billy Joe Saunders. So, folks, enjoy your fight week. Anything you do in life, put God first. This has been a podcast. So long.